Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome back to the Analyst, wherein we will learn good details about 9 current affair articles which have been picked from the Hindu and Indian Express. In the first one, we will read about a recent judgment made by Supreme Court in exercise of its power under Article 142. This judgment is about the interpretation of Hindu marriages and the validity of the same. Then in the second one, we will understand what is the need of pursuing balanced fertilization, especially in the context of growing urea consumption in India. In the third one, we will read about a type of cyber attack which is heavily impacting the security landscape of India. These are the phishing attacks. Then we will learn what are quarks and how are they instrumental in understanding and revealing the secrets of universe. Then, because rivers are important segment of mapping for us, so we will be reading about some of the drying rivers which have been in news of late. And last but not the least, we will wind up the discussion with prelim snippets that can give you an edge in the prelims examination. So let's get started. So now let's begin with the first article and a very important news. This is regarding Supreme Court's judgment made on some of the laws of Hindu marriage, interpretation of Hindu marriage in exercise of its power under Article 142. How are both of these correlated? I'll be teaching you in this one. So what is the context to quote-unquote Supreme Court? It has said interestingly that Hindu marriage is not an event for wining and dining. It is invalid without proper ceremonies that are enlisted by the Hindu Marriage Act. This particular topic is important from two perspectives. First of all, it gives a glimpse of Indian society, which is important for GS paper 1, and then it also talks about certain judicial activism which has been pursued by Indian judiciary, which becomes a part of GS2 syllabus. Such topics are more likely to be asked. In fact, a question on this topic has been asked directly in the previous year question paper, in fact in 2023 itself. So first of all, we'll understand the context of the case. The context is a divorce case which was filed in a high court. Now, since this high court was not acting very quickly, therefore the women filed a transfer petition in front of the Supreme Court. Because apart from having several jurisdictions, for example, the writ jurisdiction, original jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction, Supreme Court also has got this transfer jurisdiction, which empowers it under the Article 139A of the Indian Constitution to transfer any case, take any case from one high court and put it to another high court, or take a case from a subordinate court and put to another subordinate court. So therefore, a transfer petition was filed and Supreme Court has got this transfer jurisdiction. Now what Supreme Court has done in this particular case, it has taken away this entire case under its own hand. So which particular article gives the power to Supreme Court to take about any case running in the entire country, take about any case or any issue in the country and make a judgment on it? This is the right of the Supreme Court to establish complete justice in the society, which has been accorded to it by the Article 142 of the Constitution. So therefore, Article 142 of the Constitution empowered Supreme Court to perform complete justice in this particular case, where Supreme Court has made this judgment that under Section 7, Clause 1 of the Hindu Marriage Act, any marriage which has been performed without the due ceremonies, which in the Hindu religion is known as saptapadi, without taking those saptapadis, any marriage will not be declared as a solemnized marriage. And therefore, a twist has came up in this particular case where they were filing for divorce, but the Supreme Court questioned on the basic legitimacy of their case. Now, a natural question pops us to us that in such case, do these marriages deem cancelled, or do they stand cancelled or not? So you should also know about one more act, which is the Special Marriage Act of 1954, under which two people can come together again as a husband and wife if they file their marriage or if they sign their marriage under the Special Marriage Act of 1954. This could have saved them because they are out of the ambiguities or out of the ambits of the Hindu laws. But for now, this judgment has been made by the Supreme Court. So we will have two analyses of this judgment. First of all, with respect to Indian society and what implications will it have on it, and how are people interpreting the institution of marriage right now. And second one is the analysis of Supreme Court's power under Article 142, which enables it to perform or to give it complete justice. Okay, so first of all, let me also remind to you that a question has been asked: do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in modern India? This was asked in 2023 and we shall try to answer it in this segment. So first of all, evaluating the marriage. So marriage has been considered as a sacrament ever since historical times in the Indian society, because it is considered as a holy unification of two people who come together for lifelong commitments, and these are backed by our religion and by our culture, and they have been followed by the societies ever since. But of course, we are already seeing two forces of globalization and westernization coming towards us. Indian society is also impacted by the same. So how will the marriage as an institution will remain untouched? So therefore, the globalization and westernizations have put some footprints on our marriage institution as well. Can we have the analysis? Yes. Talking about how marriage is losing its value as a sacrament, we already know and we look around that a lot of divorce cases are increasing in India. In fact, as per 2021 census, the total amount of divorce cases shot up to 0.6% of the total marriages in India. And this is more so rising because of the growing individualistic tendencies, also rising differences, also rise in legal awareness, especially related to women. Divorces also happen, especially after the COVID happened. So therefore, there are a lot of reasons and a lot of increase in the divorce scene in India, which was not considered something that was very pious under the Hindu religion before. Next, growing acceptance of the live-in relationship. Now, couples come together without any kind of liability, without any social or religious sanctions or any fear of that. So they come together in a cohabitation relationships. Next is youth pursuing a casual approach towards the commitment nowadays because of growing consumerism, growing the right swipe and the left swipe culture. So therefore, the commitment and the principles towards marital commitments are also fading. Next is the individualistic tendencies that are rising, of course, because of the influence of westernization and the growing independence, especially the economic independence of both men and women. As a result of this, people are considering their individual demands, their individual aspirations much more above. They're giving it more priority as compared to any religion, any tradition, or any kind of social sanction. So these are the reasons why India, we can put an argument that yes, marriages as a sacrament are losing its value. But at the same time, they are still a very celebrated, very well celebrated institutions in India. We see a lot of marriages happening, a lot of them celebrated in temples, etc. All of them are bound by the religious values, by some cultural values. They are bounded by the societal values. So it is still considered as a sacrosanct in India, especially in the rural areas, in the town areas. Of course, they have faded more in metropolitan, but if you talk about India as a whole, it is still considered as coming together of two families, as a unification, as a kind of sacrosanct practice in India. Next, it obviously has got certain religious and social responsibilities. Coming up of two people with the arranged marriage setup especially is more like coming of two families together. As a result of this, they will be guarded and bounded by the religious norms. They'll be governed by the societal norms. They'll be protected by the religion and society. At the same time, they can attract the sanctions of the society and religion. Therefore, people don't come out and go for divorces because of the fear of such sanctions. Next is, this is encouraged at the policy levels as well. You must have heard about the Kanya Vivah Yojana, etc., pursued by different state governments. This showcases that government is also trying to incorporate. In fact, with the Supreme Court judgment, it is also made clear that government also appreciates marriage as a sacrosanct arrangement in India. And last but not the least, arranged marriages are still a preferred institutions. Arranged marriages, which have been happening since ancient times, one of the cultures of India, they are still a preferred institution because many of them look them with an economic lens, which means they look up as two families coming together, having economic ties, having social influence, forging alliance with families. So therefore, still in India, we have got a lot of arranged marriages happening. So we cannot defy the fact, yes, it has been diluted by the forces of westernization and globalization, but it would not be right to say, because it's still one of the best celebrations of two couples in India. Now, talking about Article 142 and analyzing it, you must first understand that this provides the power to Supreme Court to perform and to administer complete justice in about any case, in about any issue that is going on in the country. complete justice. For this, it can take up any matter in its hand. So what are the pros? So first of all, some examples of complete justice where Supreme Court has shown this. So we heard about the Bhopal gas tragedy case. So in the Bhopal gas tragedy, which took place in 1984, 1991, Supreme Court invoked the Article 142, took this entire case in its hand and called it for compensating the victims. Then, so obviously, we can say that it provides judiciary powers, it is enabler of the justice, it provides strength, it provides tools in the hands of Supreme Court. So it is definitely a source of judicial empowerment. It also empowers judiciary because it tries to enlarge the scope of judicial activism as well. So you must have heard about the Keswananda Bharti case. In this case also, the Article 142 only was invoked by the Supreme Court of India in order to formulate a basic structure doctrine that we have today. So it empowers judiciary in a great way. Next, it is also performs checks and balances. So what if the government is not performing its due duty related to abatement of pollution, related to providing rights to women? That was specifically seen in the Shah Bano case, in the Vishakha guidelines. So both of these judgments were also made by the Supreme Court by exercising Article 142. Next is, it addresses complex legal issues. Sometimes, some cases which are so challenging are not to be dealt effectively by the subordinate court, district court or by the high courts. They rather need a broader interpretation by the Supreme Court. So it's best for the Supreme Court to take the matter in their hand, to have a proper judicial interpretation and then formulate the judgment of the case. So it also enables shaping of the legal landscape, especially for the complex legal issues. Next is, it is instrumental in judicial activism in India because it enables the Supreme Court to offer complete justice regarding any injustice that is going on in the country. But there are certain criticism as well, because we are always talking about judicial activism, but there is a very thin line between judicial activism and overreach. Many times it is seen that Supreme Court also overreaches this. For example, it was seen in the case of liquor ban, which happened in the highway, and this was by a proclamation of Supreme Court, and this caused huge losses to the businessmen. In fact, the firecracker ban in Delhi, that also caused a huge backlash for the state economy. So therefore, sometimes this judicial activism becomes an overreach. So this obviously happens because of sweeping powers that are given to Supreme Court. There is only one statement given, that is to render complete justice. The correct definition and interpretation is still not out, and therefore it is out for a lot of ambiguity. Next is, it violates the separation of powers doctrine by overreaching, as I've already told you. So because it performs overreach, therefore what is the need of the hour? First is to address that this is a enabler article. This empowers the Supreme Court. It's a very welcoming step in order to give complete justice in the society. But at the same time, the need of the hour is to have judicious use of the Article 142 to safeguard and in fact to balance two things together. First of all, to render complete justice. Second, to balance separation of powers alongside, because both of them are a part of basic structure of the Constitution. Now our next article has been featured in the Explained section of Indian Express, and it talks about the need of balanced fertilization in India. What is the context? That the fiscal end, the last year, saw urea consumption hitting a record high of these many million tons, which is 16.9% higher than when the government started off, that is in the year 2014. So this obviously becomes a very important legal issue, legal policy loophole to be dealt up by the next government. So therefore, we are talking about the balanced fertilization. It particularly deals with this topic of the syllabus, which is situated in the GS3 part. Now, first of all, we will understand the dominant fertilizers that are being fed in the Indian agriculture. So there are three dominant fertilizers. One is urea, the second is diammonium phosphate, which is a major source of phosphorus, and third is the muriate of potash, which is a rich source of potassium. Why are we only targeting nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium? Because these are the primary nutrients which are required for fertility of the crops. These are the NPK, and the ideal ratio for their application is 4:2:1. That is 4 parts of nitrogen, 2 parts of phosphorus and 1 part of potassium should be applied. Now, what is happening in the case of India? In the case of India, urea is, as you can see from the data, urea has got the majority of the sales, majority of the production, majority of the consumption among all the fertilizers, synthetic fertilizers that are being produced in the India. So urea dominates this landscape. In fact, urea becomes the most consumed fertilizer of the India, 74% of the total one, and it is also the most produced fertilizer of India, that is about 85%. What are the factors which are driving this level of consumption and production of urea in India that we need to assess in order to make any judgment? First of all is the high demand. High demand of urea is there because of its versatility. It can be applied for various types of plant diseases, for various types of crops across multiple kinds of terrains and soils. So this makes it very versatile. Second, it is very easy to maintain, very affordable again, and it is easy to store as well, unlike other forms of other forms of fertilizers like DAP and MOP. It is also very affordable, made more affordable by the heavy subsidies that the government provides. So you can see that the price of urea is only about 5,600 rupees per ton, but in the case of DAP, it is about 17,000 rupees per ton. In the case of MOP, it is even worse, 34,000 rupees per ton. So obviously, the farmers who are majority in small and marginal proportions and sectors, so therefore they will be choosing urea over the other fertilizers. Therefore, this is heavily distorted this ratio. So this ratio currently has become somewhere about 12:5:1 ratio. Just see the amount of urea abuse we are doing with our fertilizers and with our soil. The second reason is high supply. Now it is in high supply, it is being highly produced by the market forces. Why? Because they are being incentivized by the government, because it is the one which attracts the highest amount of subsidies provided by the government. Now, for a fact, you must also know that Indian government provides subsidies in urea only for the agricultural uses and not for the industrial or non-agricultural uses. The statement can pop up, so please be aware. Now, what is the cost? Yes, we have understood that there is imbalanced fertilization, 12:5:1. So what would be the cost? See, the excess of anything becomes a poison. Ati sarvatra varjate, and therefore both the lack of fertilizers and the excess of fertilizers will degrade the quality of the soil, and it has been seen, as you can see, that the crop yield and their response to fertilizers have degraded exponentially since the last 40 years, and this is very, very alarming despite we providing a lot of subsidies for the fertilizers. So basically, fertilizers are now killing us rather than supporting us, or rather than facilitating us with food. So first of all, it causes yield losses because the productivity of the land has lost. Yield losses, of course, will lead to financial losses for the farmers, both input and the output losses. First of all, they paid a lot of money to purchase the urea, to purchase the fertilizer, and second, now their crop is not coming out in good yield, and therefore they are facing both input losses and also output financial losses. Next is soil degradation, because it imbalances the amount of nutrient availability in the soil. A lot of nitrogen will cause acidity in the soil, rendering it infertile for a lot of crops to grow. Next is it causes environmental pollution. It can get leached in the water bodies, it can cause eutrophication, it can cause algal blooms, it will make the water unfit for the use also. It will also degrade the biodiversity naturally. Then if it enters the food chain, and it does enter the food chain, a lot of vegetables and fruits that we consume are actually inorganic, are actually filled with pesticides and these fertilizers. So therefore, they possess a lot of health risks. They can bioaccumulate inside the body, leading to a lot of carcinogenic symptoms as well. So that happens. And last but not the least, it creates a vicious cycle, and therefore it impacts the Indian economy as well. Now, as you know that we have become dependent on fertilizer. So much so that we need more fertilizer each year. I am repeating, which is not getting compensated by the high amount of production that we are bringing. We are the largest producer of urea in the world, but at the same time, we are also the largest importer of urea in the world. The reason for this is the rising demand of urea because of the degrading fertility of the soil. This is making us import dependent. So this is causing us fiscal deficit as well. It is impeding our economy as well. So these are the cost of an imbalanced fertilization, and naturally what is the need of the hour is to pursue balanced fertilization, where basically we want the soil to be fertilized but at an adequate level. We don't want to abuse the fertilizers. We want to promote the application of complex fertilizers which contain not only the primary fertilizers like nitrogen, potassium and your phosphorus, but also some of the secondary Secondary fertilizers, which are sulfur, calcium, magnesium, again very important for the fertility of the soil. Along with that, micronutrients should also be included. So what is the need of the R? Balanced fertilization can be achieved by pursuing complex fertilizers, which is having primary fertilizers, secondary fertilizer and micro fertilizer. It's just like you cannot be just eating wheat and rice all the time and come out to be as a healthy person. You need balanced diet. You need some sprouts, you need some salads, you need some fruits as well. A similar kind of food should be created for the plants as well. That is the need of the R. How to do this? First of all, we have to improve the nitrogen use efficiency. A lot of nitrogen gets leached into the environment because it is not properly getting absorbed by the plant. Why? Because either it is getting evaporated, or either it is getting diluted in the water. So in order to compensate that, government has mandated from 2015 the use of neem coated urea. Neem coated urea has been mandated because if you coat something with neem, it slows down the absorption rate, and therefore it enhances the efficiency, the amount or the rate at which the plant can consume the fertilizer. Next is, we should promote soil testing. How will it help us? It will help us understand the report cards of the soil and the particular requirement of the soil. So we will be delivering only those fertilizers which are required, and not unnecessary flooding of urea will be done. Next is, we need advanced fertilizers which should be both sustainable, should be organic, at the same time should be highly efficient. So for example, nano urea, for example, sulfur coated urea. Sulfur is a micronutrient. I have told you we need to create complex kind of fertilizers. So both nano urea and sulfur coated ureas, they have also been mandated and they have been introduced by the Indian government in the Indian agriculture. So we need advanced fertilizers, and then we also need to reform the nutrient based subsidy scheme. Now understand this scheme well. There was a highly distorted ratio of NPK. We understood that this was of roughly about 12:5:1, and as a result of this, government wanted to incentivize the use of potassium and of phosphorus. This is potassium and this is phosphorus. How will you do this? By promoting the subsidies on two things: of DAP, which provides phosphorus, and muriate of potash, which provides potassium. So government through this scheme provides only subsidies on DAP and MOP. It keeps itself mum on the urea fertilizers. It does not deal with the urea fertilizers in the nutrient based subsidy scheme. In this particular case, what reforms do we need? We need reforms for not only providing subsidies in the primary ones, but also for the secondary ones, but also for the organic fertilizers, etc., so that they also get incentivized. So basically, that is the need of the R. Of course, the need of the R would be to augment the balanced fertilization along with sustainable agricultural practices, and this will definitely revamp the Indian agricultural landscape. Now, looking into some PYQ questions have been asked. These are the two questions which I am relying on you to answer. So therefore, you will answer both of these questions and tell about them in the comment section. Moving on to our next article. In this, we will be reading about phishing attacks, which are a type of cyber attacks. The context is that a New Jersey cybersecurity provider report has recently revealed that India is one of the key countries affected by the phishing attacks. It has given a lot of data regarding it. The data is not very important, but we will understand what is this phishing. So basically, first understand what are cyber attacks. There are different types of cyber attacks. First of all, where somebody tries to disrupt or somebody tries to attack the software by introducing something like malwares or ransomwares in it. The other one is a physical attack on the computer by USB dropping, by causing somebody to take up a charger and then infecting that charger, and then the person uses that charger and infects the person, computer or the mobile. That is a physical attack, kind of cyber attack. There is another one, which is the social attacks, or that which are led by the principles of social engineering or social manipulation of the people, where people are manipulated to that extent that they themselves reveal their confidential information. One such social engineering attack is known as phishing attack. As the name suggests, this is similar to anybody doing phishing, which is basically luring a target for them to catch it. This is the lure. They are getting lured and then they will get attracted and they will catch up their confidential information. Phishing in particular utilizes some of the malicious links. These malicious links are driven onto somebody's gadget using e-communication devices, for example mobiles, or e-communication applications, for example emails. So therefore, phishing attacks generally takes place through emails. If it is happening via phone calls, then this is phishing. If it is happening via links, the malicious links that are sent on smishing, on SMS, then they are known as smishing. Now naturally, the moment anybody clicks these links, they are hacked. As you can see from this particular mail, that this mail says that your password will expire in 1 day. So update your password, and they have given this particular link saying that by clicking this link you will be able to update the password. The moment they'll enter the password, their account is hacked. This is an attempt of phishing. I hope you've understood what is phishing, what is the difference between phishing and wishing and smishing. Now another word is spear phishing. See, phishing could be targeted across different sets of population for any kind of person, for any kind of individual. But if you're targeting a particular sector of the economy, a particular company, a particular individual, then that is known as spear phishing. It is a customized attack on a specific employee, on a specific company. That's the difference between all these keywords. Now, one good news that has also been revealed by Verizon is that because of the rise of cyber awareness in India, about 20% of these attacks have been duly recognized and reported to the government. And therefore, we should also learn how our cybersecurity governance landscape is evolving, which led to creation of enhancement of cybercrime awareness. The first one is establishment of a one-stop portal where any citizen can file a complaint regarding any cyber threat which has been caused to them. So this portal is National Cybercrime Reporting Portal of India, which has been launched by Ministry of Home Affairs. Next is the IT Act. Now this is the primary legislation which takes care of the entire cyber landscape of the country, and it also provides for penalties to penalize the persons who are causing these cyber threats and cyber crimes. Next is a comprehensive policy which takes care of all the stakeholders and provides for cyber awareness creation. For the people of India, this is the National Cyber Security Policy launched by the Government of India in 2013. Next, certain institutions have also been set up. So what if you want to really check whether your system has been infected or not? So you can go to the Cyber Swachhata Kendra, where they will be analyzing the computers, your systems for any bots, for any malicious softwares, etc. This is the Cyber Swachhata Kendra, and this has been launched by the Ministry of Electronics and IT. Again, Certain has been launched. Certain is also being launched by the Ministry of Electronics and IT. This is nodal agency for response against any kind of cyber threat, especially which has happened in an institutional level, especially for the critical infrastructure. So the first task force that moves in is the Certain. Next is creation of Cyber Crime Coordination Center. We have already seen a lot of ministries come together. There is Ministry of Home Affairs doing something, Electronics doing something, in fact Niti Aayog does something. So we need kind of collaboration of all the stakeholders. This comes in with the form of India Cyber Crime Coordination Center by Ministry of Home Affairs. I've already taught this trick before also. Wherever you see cyber crime keyword, then it means that the ministry will be Ministry of Home Affairs. And whenever it is something related to cyber security, then the ministry would be of Electronics and IT. Okay. Then again, do we have any awareness initiative? Absolutely yes. We have got Cyber Surakshit Bharat awareness campaigns to build the awareness of the people against the cyber crimes that can be committed against them. So this shows India's commitment in securing our cyber landscape, and we are good to go in that. Of course, we have got long way to go and there are a lot of things to do again, but that for discussion on any other session. So these provisions highlight the fact how strong of a commitment India has towards securing its cyber landscape. Of course, we have a long way to go, and which makes me ask a question to you. Is India signatory to Budapest Convention or not? What do you think? Is it signatory to this or not? In this article, we will read about quarks. These are elementary particles, and we will be talking about it in the context that this particular section has been covered in the science section of the Hindu, and which is revealed that discovering quark stars could offer insights into astrophysics, understanding and getting more revelations about the universe. So of course it deals with science and tech section of GS paper 3. To understand the quarks, first of all, let's break down the matter itself. Every matter has got the basic unit, basic composition unit, which is the atom. Atom, can it be divided? Yes, it can be divided into subatomic particles, which are the nucleons, something which is stored in its nucleus, and something which revolves around its nucleus, which is known as electrons. Amongst the nucleons, in the nucleons, we have got neutrons and we have got protons. Protons give its positive charge, neutrons is neutral. Okay, neutron is neutral, proton gives positive charge. Electrons have negative charge. Now comes the biggest question. Can these atomic particles be further differentiated? Not in the case of electrons, they cannot be differentiated anymore, but the nucleons, that is the neutrons and protons, can again be further subdivided into something which we know as quarks. There are total 6 types of quarks and their consecutive anti-quarks. These quarks are up, charm, top, down, strange and bottom. These words can come up to you in the prelims examination and you will be made to answer, you will be made to recognize whether these are quarks or whether these are leptons, etc. The answer is these are quarks, and all of them have got anti-quarks as well. Now, the behavior of quark is such that they generally live together. They live in harmony with each other. They cannot live individually and they are highly glued to each other. If this gluing is happening between 2 particles, then they are known as mesons. If this gluing is happening between 3 particles, then they are known as baryons. So basically, when quarks come together, they clump together and they got clubbed up, then they are known as hadron particles. Now, whether this clubbing has happened between 2 quarks or between 3 quarks, it again classifies these hadrons into mesons and into baryons. Where do we find the place of protons and neutrons? Protons and neutrons are where 3 quarks have come and collaborated and are joined together. So, protons and neutrons are baryons. But of course, in a larger subset, they are hadron particles. Don't get confused. Just take the notes of it and you will be able to recall it once you do enough amount of revisions. So, talking about the protons and neutrons, we have already said that these are the baryons, and I have already said that the baryons are made such that 2 quarks have come together, 3 quarks have actually come together. So, which force has glued them? The force that glues them is known as gluons. These are known as gluons and they are made up of very, very strong nuclear forces. If you arrange all the forces that we have, the strong nuclear forces are the strongest forces in the universe, even stronger than the weak nuclear force, even stronger than the gravitational pull that we know. So they are bound together by the strong nuclear forces. So we understand how do we get the quarks. Now, is it possible for this glue to get deglued and these quarks to come out and escape individually? Not at all. This is a theoretical concept that I am about to teach you, but it has not been seen really because the quarks generally do not exist in individual states. They always exist in a clubbed state, like neutron, like proton. So therefore, you will never be able to see the free quarks. But in some extraordinary cases as in a pressure so high as that of a big bang explosion has happened or explosion of a neutron star has happened, that might be able to create that amount of pressure that can break these bonds, and further de-break the electrons into the participant quarks. So wherever in the space we get to see independent quarks, it's just like plasma, that the particles, the ions are living in independent states. Similar to that, wherever we see independent quark, at that position we can imagine that some kind of great explosion of universe must have happened, or a neutron star must have been there, or a black hole explosion must have happened. So this state of independent existence of quark is known as a gluon quark plasma. And again, this is a theoretical one. Scientists are striving to detect them, because if we will be able to detect them, we will be able to detect something known as quark star. a star which is exploded so high that they have created independent suspensions of quark particles. So I hope you've understood what are quarks. So all of this has been written over here. I'm not going to repeat it again. So we are assessing neutron stars over here. We are assessing in particular neutron stars over here. Why? Because neutron stars have got that much pressure that they might debreak and they might disintegrate the components of hadrons into individual quark particles. Now we'll understand another term which is given in this text. This is quark deconfinement. This is actually a more complicated word of what I am calling as a hadron particle getting disintegrated into subsequent quark particle. That is what we call as deconfinement of the quark particles. And this happens in extreme situations. During Big Bang, it must have happened. Such certain situation can be simulated in the Large Hadron Collider facility, where it can create that much amount of pressure where two baryons or two hadrons can break off into subsequent quarks. So therefore, understanding quark would help us understand and solve a lot of mysteries of the hidden parts of the universe around us. Of course, quantum chromodynamics is a study which predicts the state of matter. Which state of matter? Where these quarks are independently existing. This is the quark gluon plasma, as I've already told you. This kind of plasma must have been there during the Big Bang phase. Okay, and where quarks are free at extremely high energy. So I hope that I have simplified this concept for you. So what are quarks, what are baryons, what are hadrons, what are leptons? We've understood all of that. So now we'll move on to the next topic. This is about the drying rivers of the East India. So a lot of news has been coming around about the Bengaluru drought and the East rivers having record low water levels in them. In fact, this image has also been put up by the Hindu newspaper in the front page. Central Water Commission recently in its report has said that at least 13 of the east flowing rivers between Mahanadi and Pennar have no water at the moment. Last year during the same time, because heat waves are running and there are multiple reasons as well, but the last time when the El Nino year was there, at that time also we saw 13% more water as compared to what we have right now in these rivers. So we'll be having a quick glance on these rivers. First of all, the rivers that we are going to target is the peninsular East India rivers, which are flowing and draining towards the Bay of Bengal. So it starts with Subarna Rekha river, then there is Brahmani river, then there is Mahanadi river, then there is Godavari river, then there is Krishna, then there is Penna river. And this particular region and the basement area, the catchment area of these rivers are heavily drought prone. The rivers are drying at record low levels. As you can see, if you compare the year's capacity with last year's storage, just look into the Pennar river. Last year, it had about this much level of water as compared to its capacity, and this year we have only got this much water left in it. So this is a grave concern which needs to be dealt with. But anyway, the matter of discussion right now is to understand it from geography point of view. So we'll be analyzing some of the drying rivers because this is a hot buzzing topic for UPSC prelims. Now, some of the rivers that have been mentioned are, and these have been mentioned by the Central Water Commission, they are drying at a rapid rate. So these are Rushikulya, Bahuda, Vamsadhara, Nagavali, Sharda, Varaha, Tandava, Eluru, Gundlakamma, Tamilemeru, Musi, Paleru and Munneru rivers. Of course, it's not possible to learn all of them, but some of them have been asked by the examiner in one way or the other, directly or indirectly, so we'll be analyzing them. First of all, we will begin with the Mahanadi river system. So Mahanadi is the third largest peninsular river in India after Godavari and Krishna. It originates from Sihava. Which is near Raipur district. Raipur is the capital of Chhattisgarh, so it originates from Chhattisgarh. Then it flows to Odisha. Now, it has got multiple tributaries, right bank and left bank. The left bank tributaries include Seonath, Hasdeo, Mand and Ib. To understand it, create an acronym something like SEHMI. These are the left bank tributaries. So from the left bank, it is a SEHMI river. This is a Hindi language word. Next is the right bank tributary. Right bank tributaries are Jonk, Ong and Tel. How do you remember them? They are generally 3 to 4 words worth long length. So therefore Jonk, Ong and Tel, or you can remember it like Jot. Okay, so these are the tributaries. One very important dam which is in the Mahanadi river, that is the Hirakud Dam. You must also know that these are the tributaries which are getting dried right now. It's not actually the Mahanadi river, it's actually the rivers which are getting compromised. Next is the Vamsadhara river. Now Vamsadhara river flows through two states, Orissa and then Andhra Pradesh. In fact, it originates from Orissa in a place called Kalahandi in Orissa. It originates from there. Then it flows and forms a boundary between Andhra Pradesh and Orissa. Therefore, this was a news since many years because of the border disputes, because of the water sharing dispute between Orissa and Andhra Pradesh, because it shares border between it. And then of course it drains into Bay of Bengal via Andhra Pradesh only. So it has got catchment area in about 2 states. This is the Vamsadhara river. Is it a tributary of Godavari? No, it is not a tributary of Godavari. Next is the Krishna river. Krishna river is the second largest peninsular river after Godavari. Krishna river originates from Mahabaleshwar in Maharashtra and it travels through 4 states. There's Maharashtra, there's Karnataka, there's Telangana, and it finally drains into Bay of Bengal via Andhra Pradesh. Now Krishna river has again got multiple tributaries. The left bank tributaries are Bhima, Dindi, Halia, Musi and Muneru. We already have seen that Muneru and Musi have been classified by the Central Water Commission as those rivers which have got the most depleted water levels. So Musi and Muneru could come, and they are the tributaries. They are in fact the left bank tributaries of the Krishna river. Then talking about the right bank tributaries, there you have got the Vijayanagar Empire and therefore the Malprabha river, the Tungabhadra river. You have also got the Koyna. We must have heard about the Koyna dam. So the Koyna river is there. Then Panchganga, Ghat Prabha, Malprabha, Tungabhadra. These rivers, especially which fed the Hampi region, especially which fed the Vijayanagar Empire at that time. So these are also the right bank tributaries of Krishna river. Can you name a very significant dam which is situated in the bank of Krishna river? So kindly name that for me. Next is the southernmost of these particular rivers, not the southernmost of all. This is the Pennar river. Now, why is this river important? Not only it's drying up, but this is one such river which once originated from Karnataka. It then flows into 2 distinct streams. Via one stream, it reaches Tamil Nadu. Southern stream reaches towards Tamil Nadu and the northern stream reaches towards Andhra Pradesh. In the Andhra Pradesh, it particularly reaches a region known as Gandikota. Gandikota is where you will be able to see the Grand Canyon of India, a question which has been asked in UPSC prelims exam. So this Gandikota Canyon is created. This canyon is basically because of an erosional landform formed by this river. So this river is Pennar river, which has created Gandikota Canyon. This again should be retained. Now, on the basis of given information, kindly try to answer this PYQ asked by UPSC in 2015. Okay, it was one of the difficult questions, but I don't think it will be difficult for you anymore. Additional advice would be to read the peninsular rivers of India in great detail, especially their tributaries, any dams that have been made, rivers that are in conflict because of water disputes. So read about them well for your prelims prep. Talking about prelims, we are here with the prelim snippets where we'll read about the 4 things. The smart missile which has been launched by DRDO recently, the Antares, the NAPFIT and the AUKUS. So we will be reading about all of these seemingly difficult words in the following slides. So first of all is a smart defense system. Can we break down this word for better clarity? Stands for supersonic missile assisted torpedo system. It is essentially a torpedo system. Torpedoes are missiles which are launched inside the water in order to attack submarine systems. They will be assisted by supersonic missiles. If you classify the missiles on the basis of speed, any missile which is matching up the speed of sound, then that is called a sonic missile. If it is greater than, it's obviously you should also be made familiar with Mach number. Mach number is basically what is the velocity or what is the speed of the object as compared to the velocity or speed of the sound. If this Mach number is equal to 1, which means any missile having Mach number equal to 1 is a sonic missile traveling at a speed that or similar to that of sound. If it is more than 1 but less than 5 Mach number, then this is classified as a hypersonic missile traveling at speeds higher as compared to speed of sound. if it is breaching this 5 Mach number mark as well, which means having speed 5 times as high as speed of sound, these are classified as hypersonic missile systems. Does India have any hypersonic missile system in India? Think about it, because we've already discussed this in the Missile Systems of India Analyst, which is covered in some backdate. So we realize that India has just got smarter in its anti-submarine warfare. And how so? Because it has enhanced the traditional range of a torpedo. The thing with torpedoes is that they cannot achieve great speeds because they always attract the friction of the waters, flowing waters. So therefore, in order to enhance their speed, enhance their range from about some kilometers to about 1000 kilometers, they will now be launched with the help of a missile, so that they can extend their ranges. Right? So for example, this is the targeted submarine. So it will be launched and dropped down from here. So it doesn't have to cover a lot of distance over here. So in this manner, it will be able to cover and destroy this submarine with a very high speed in a shorter amount of time. So that is a smart defense system. It has been created by DRDO, and this is basically to target and to augment the anti-submarine warfare capabilities of India, which has already been taken up by 2 projects, Project 28 and Project 75. What are these? Kindly have a look, and also kindly have a look into these submarines which have been created. You must have also seen the movie this Ghazi attack. In the Ghazi attack, torpedo attacks were seen. In the INS Karanj was seen. So all of these are a part of India's anti-submarine warfare only. In the next one, we will read about a red giant, a very luminous red colored star, which is generally visible in the night sky. This is the Antares. This is also known as Jyesht in Hindi language, Alpha Scorpio as well, because this is the largest star, the biggest star of the Scorpion constellation. It appears red in color, often gets confused as if it's a Mars planet. It's not Mars planet that you see in the night sky. It is actually the Antares, the largest star. But why does this star appear red in color? Because this is a dying star. It is in the last phases of its evolution. When stellar nebula creates itself into an average star, this star, because the fuel goes down, it will also start burning, and it will also start fading away. As a result, it will become a red giant. It will become a red giant because of the explosions of the existing fuels, and it will emit color which is red. Then upon further exhaustion of the fuel, this will collapse into a nebula before finally collapsing into a very small white dwarf. Our sun is not capable of becoming a black hole or a neutron star because of the mass it has. It can only become a white dwarf. Before becoming that, it will become a red giant. So this one, the Antares, is a red giant which is visible to us. And in order to become a red giant, the mass of the star should be more than that of solar mass of the sun. It should be somewhere about 0.3 to 8 solar masses. This is something which you can remember for the exam. The next in news is a unique kind of bank which provides loans, which provides investments only for the infrastructure and the development projects of India, especially those which give us long-term returns and which are also highly risky sectors. So for that, a particular DFI, a particular development financial institution was created by the government of India, and this was institutionalized in 2021 via the budget. And the fund source, please remember, when it comes to development finance institution, these finance institutions are different from bank because they don't take money from customers. They don't take money from individuals, rather they take money from the marketplace, from the government. In fact, government supports them because government wants the infrastructure to be laid down. It's not concern of a normal person. It's not concern of any individual. So therefore, it attracts the funds from markets, from the governments and multilateral institutions. But why will they take it? Because they are backed by the government guarantees. Because government wants to expedite capital investments or finances in the infrastructure. Because infrastructure, as I have already told you, provides a great multiplier impact in the all other sectors of economy. So again, therefore, this NAPFIT was created, and it has got authorized share capital of 1 lakh crore rupees. Government currently has got 100% shares in it, which may be diluted. Strategic disinvestment can be made up to 26%, and government is fine with it. abbreviated. So this is about NAVFID. Talking about the last prelim snippet, this is a trilateral. So this is the era of minilaterals where people or countries with limited concerns, specific concerns come together without trying to create a club of 20, 40, 50 countries. They just come together, form a minilateral. This particular one is for getting this strategic foothold in the Indo-Pacific region. The three dominant players, that is the USA, the UK and the Australia. That is why it's abbreviated as AUKUS. So AUKUS is a trilateral partnership for defense and security augmentation of these three players, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. Why? Because they want to counter China. They want to counter the ambitions of China. They want to create a better deterrence by providing certain military equipments, trainings, augmentations to the following countries, to the member countries and to the other countries as well. So it's going to work in two phases. It has got actually two pillars in it. The first pillar says that there will be, in the first pillar, or basically in the first phase of the project, they will only focus upon providing conventionally armed nuclear powered submarines to the Royal Australian military. So we'll try to empower the Royal Military, the Australian military, in the first phase. But the second phase talks about a deeper technological pact among not just the AUKUS countries but also AUKUS countries with other countries, for example Japan and South Korea, and this has actually been in news right now. So the pillar number 2 talks about cooperation at a more broader level. We are going to cooperate on artificial technology, cyber intelligence, innovation, records, undersea, hypersonic, electronic warfare domains, etc. So this is AUKUS. And you should also be knowing about another minilateral, which is I2U2. So what are the member countries of I2U2? This question again was asked in UPSC mains exam. And so I guess I'm done for today. Had a great time taking this session. Thank you so much. Have a nice day till we meet again.